Hello, beautiful souls. I am so excited to talk about mistakes we have made, especially when hosting transformational experiences and retreats. If we haven't met before, hi, I'm Casey Knight, and I am here with Radiant Soul Nicole. And we have hosted many transformational events, retreats, workshops, classes, all kinds of incredibly magical opportunities for people to have like wildly incredible transformations. But we've also made some mistakes along the way, and we want to share with you what we have learned so you don't have to make these mistakes yourself to learn from them. Thank you so much for being here, Nicole.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to have this conversation today.
Yeah, we have facilitated separately and together, like day-long workshops, year-long courses, retreats that have been, out in beautiful sacred lands. There's so many different things that we have done together over the past, let's just say, decade-ish. Um, and it's more fun to have a conversation with somebody because Nicole make different kinds of mistakes so we can bring more wholeness to this conversation. So, first off, if you are watching live or on the replay, just let us know, do a little hashtag, and we want to hear your questions. And if you have ever had any of these experiences, either as a workshop guest or as a facilitator, because that just increases our capacity to share with you what it is that we want in terms of what to do as well as what not to do. And I also just want to say is that transformation is sometimes an overused word, but I was thinking back today to retreats that I have attended and that I have hosted. And I literally started to cry. I got emotional because I am not the same person that I was before attending these events. Like I have literally healed wounds like sisterhood wounds, hyper independent trauma responses. I learned that I don't have to be alone or do things alone. I learned what it's like to be held in supportive community. I learned what it feels like to be connected to people and have a sacred space where I got to express myself freely and authentically. I got to experience all kinds of liberation. I also had conversations with people that changed the trajectory of my life and business, both inside the actual retreat and then like around it in the social settings that happen. So I am such an advocate for taking time out of your life to have an experience where you can be in this liminal environment that's outside of your everyday, because that's where the most like potent transformations can occur. I'm sure you've had experiences like that too, Nicole.
My gosh, absolutely. Like, I can't even begin to describe the amount of things that I probably started going to over 10 years ago of specifically those are more consciously transformational ones, but even like music festivals and raves back in the day are still transformational events in some way too. So yeah, and just thinking about this summer where I got to go to 6 festivals and a couple of retreats and like so many things. I am each one I was massively changed afterwards. So literally if you haven't seen me in the past 6 months, I'm a new person since then. um yeah, I can't imagine not having those little breaks and pauses in my life, and they just recharge you so much. And so often we don't take the time to actually do these things for ourselves in our regular life, and we need that fuels us to evolve. And having these little breaks outside of your regular life is just reminds you of what's important and gives you the privilege to drop in and connect with who you are and be able to share more of that out in the world ultimately.
My husband is so encouraging of me going on retreats as well as hosting them. Like that's one facet of this, going on them, because he knows I am a better human being. He's like, it's your reset button. back in the day when we were going to a lot of hula hooping retreats, transformational events that were like focused on hoop dance, but had so much more in them as well. He was like, literally, you need to go. You are insufferable if it has been too long since you have immersed yourself in this kind of environment. And that really gave me the permission to understand that it's not selfish to take a retreat from society. It actually helps you advance because then you can go through the metamorphosis that we all are going through anyway in a shorter piece of time. It helps with the luminous evolution of your beingness, your business, your magic. And if you're watching this, you've probably been to a transformational event, and that's why it's on your vision board. And you're like, I would like to host these events, or you're already hosting these events, whether they're in a niche like pure transformation, intuition, empowerment, embodiment, or they're in some specific focus like nutrition, wellness, yoga. It doesn't matter. This conversation is for anybody that is taking a group of people, and this would apply to individual things too, through an experience where you're bringing them in and they're supposed to have some kind of experience that is a journey to go from one state to another, a little metamorphosis, and it's supposed to, in some way, change their life for the better. So, we want to get into what not to do so that you can host events that are not just like transformational, but they're exquisitely exceptional. Like, I want you to do a great job doing them. And this is part of my design. If you don't follow human design, that's fine. A lot of mistakes, and then I can learn from them, create a lot of wisdom, and bring forward what not to do for my students. So, what is the first one that we wanted to talk about, Nicole? I think like you should introduce this because you've had a few experiences where it's not just something you've done, but like other facilitators at events you've done have done this and you've been like, oh God, no.
Hmm. Yeah, so the first one is just jumping right in. And what we mean by that is jumping right into the experience without setting up the container appropriately and letting people know what's going to happen and letting them know where where you're going and what you're doing and why you're doing it and giving appropriate time for integration and time for closing and all of that stuff. And as an example that I had recently, I'm in many Facebook groups of different entrepreneurs, people that are offering healing work and doing all the things that we do. And I was inspired to sign up for a replay of this activation. I don't remember exactly what it was about, but it was something like a sacral womb activation or something. So something to do with like sexual energy. And that is something where I feel that it is so important to really set the space and create safety because like women in general, most women I would say have probably some sort of sexual trauma. So you really need to be informed about that. Um, and consider that that can be a very uncomfy space for a lot of people to dive into. So I was in this group and I kind of knew who the facilitators of this event were, but when I watched the replay, they didn't tell me their names. They didn't tell me like what we were going to be doing. They didn't say why we were going to be doing anything. They just went straight into this activation, which was a powerful activation. But I was like, I had to pause it and rewind it and be like, did I miss something here? Because they started just like speaking in light language, which is cool, but also I'm like, what the F is going on right now? I don't understand what we're doing. And I'm like, did they really just skip over that entire part? The sales page that I clicked on to buy it from like had a minimal, if any, like information about what it was. Like I literally knew that it was an activation, but I didn't know anything else about it. It was super powerful. And then when it ended, it was like 45 minutes of different stuff, I think. When it ended, they're just like, okay, we're done. And then there was no integration, no closing, no like processing what came up for you or how it came up or like what you can do for aftercare to integrate it or anything. And I was baffled because I was like, do people really? And there's no judgment because I do have a lot of facilitation experience. So it's that stuff all seems super like common knowledge to me. But if you don't know, you don't know. So I have taken a lot of training to know to do those things. And it was just, I liken it to all of a sudden just like, it's like having sex without foreplay and out any pillow talk afterwards. We're just like, wham, bam, thank you, man, we're done. That's that. I mean, sometimes that might be nice, but most of the time, I want more than that. And I want to feel safe and secure. And that's such a big, 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 big piece. So yeah, I'm gonna get on my soapbox and talk about that a little bit because it's such a trauma-informed thing and like really making people feel safe. If you don't feel safe and your nervous system is activated, you're not going to receive the transformation. You're not going to receive the activations that are happening because your body is literally not open to it. So
Yeah,
yeah.
if you want people to get results, you need to like create the container for them to feel relaxed enough to enjoy the experience, because just being thrust in to something really intense, like people are going to put their defenses up. They're going to be like, whoa, what's happening? And then they're not going to get the benefit. And it sounds like these people have so much to offer, but they weren't able to really like have you fully receive it. So yeah, what do we want? And let us know. Have you had this experience before where somebody has just jumped right in and you're like, whoa, wait, hold, what's happening? And it's kind of taking you out of the moment. I know I have. And even like in other parts of workshops and retreats and events and conferences I've been at, if there's any point in time that I don't know what's happening and the crowd doesn't know, the people that are attending, I notice how dysregulated everybody gets. Like I've been at events where they don't tell you that, okay, now we're going for lunch. Like somehow that announcement was missed and everybody's just like, are we done? What are we supposed to do? Right? Like you can take people out of their ability to experience the benefits, the results, the enjoyment, the activations, and just the process by not giving them all of the information that they need to feel comfortable, safe, at home, at ease. Like tell your people what you're going to do, then do the thing, tell them what you've just done and how they can help integrate that into their life.
Mhm. Like I need to know why we're doing stuff. I need to know like what the purpose of it is. And if I didn't know anything about light language in that particular situation, I would have been like, what? Well, I already kind of was like, what the fuck? But it would have been even more like, what is this? What does it do? Like they have to assume you can't assume that everybody knows everything that you're doing. And even if it's something, and sometimes it's hard as a facilitator to remember that, but it's really important to think back to when you didn't know the things that you know now, that you needed somebody to explain it to you. And we it, it can be really tricky to, yeah, just to remember that and to explain things in those really simple, plain ways. But that is like the number one thing I think that needs to happen for transformation to occur.
Yeah, it is so important. And Erin's actually saying she had to talk everything through as a dental assistant. And it makes so much sense because people have comfort in knowing the steps. And it can feel really repetitive as a teacher, as a coach, as a facilitator, as a dental hygienist, because you know this stuff inside out. But the people that are attending don't. And every time I do a light language activation, I feel like I'm boring myself because I'm telling people exactly what they need to do to prep to receive. But if I didn't do that, I know that people would not be able to get the benefit. So I do it and it feels repetitive, and you got to get used to that. You got to be okay with that. It's also why I teach in my facilitator training the templates and the structures that people can use to make sure, including like a checklist of how to set up your events so that you can get all of this. And I think we might as well just mention right now that if anybody wants this free event planning checklist that includes the templates and the structures and systems for setting up events, including the facilitation part, we do have a free planning guide, and you can get it if you register for the Rise and Shine Masterclass. The link is just above or below or wherever links happen to be for you. And in that masterclass, you're going to get more keys and codes about mastering the art of hosting transformational experiences. because there's an art and there's a science. And we're going to go into structure, strategy, soul, all of the magic, also all of those things that create this really good container for the magic to be tangible, practical, and applicable. Because without that, what's the point? So I want to go into number two, that being said. And this is one that I still have to reel myself back from making this mistake. And that's stuffing an event, a workshop, a class, or a retreat with too much stuff. I am a freaking library and I have skills and like practices that I can bring people through that are going to change their lives, rock their worlds. I have over 20 years of training in stuff. So my magic bag is so full of tricks. And I'm like, I'm going to share this one with them and 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 all of the information. And that actually is the worst thing you can do. If you're hosting something transformational and you fire hose people, they're not going to retain what they need. They're going to get overloaded and they're going to be like, well, what just happened? And they're not going to get what they need. So I have had to learn to slow it down and that less is actually more and that people, what they actually want and what I want when I'm in a retreat is actually not to be fire hosed and have so much going on that I don't have downtime to digest and integrate. Even socialize and share. I don't want to just be learning, 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 doing, 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 doing. I want that time to chill, to talk to the other participants, to make those heart connections, to feel heard, to feel understood. So that is one of the greatest things we can do is put less in terms of learning and activations and experience and more time for digestion, integration, connection, and also all of those pieces of containment and just take it slower. Just like going back to the first example, do we want the like, bam, bam, thanks, yes, ma'am? Or do we want to have this slow, luxuriously sensual experience where we are not in a rush and we take our time and we get to where we want to go anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm also guilty of that, and it's a practice that I'm still working on improving. And for me, part of it is because I know a lot of information, but in the past, it's also been because I wanted to feel like I was giving people enough value, and there was like a whole piece of not wanting to like, I'm like, am I enough? Is this enough? Like all of that kind of stuff. Um, and what I've learned is that people have access to all of the information in the world because of the internet. And if people wanted the information and could just apply it and make the changes from the information only, we would all be eating well, sleeping well, taking care of our bodies, be perfect in our relationships. Like if it was just about the knowledge, we would be doing it already. But what we actually need is to take the knowledge and turn it into embodied wisdom. And that doesn't happen just by being bombarded with information. It happens by doing self-reflection and slowing down and being with the information and getting time to reflect on how this is showing up in your life, whatever it is that you're facilitating on or what you're learning. And having that time to process it is so important. So as I've gotten more practice facilitating, I am getting better at taking things out and knowing that what people actually need is a break from the information that we're bombarded with daily and regular life all the time. Like everyone actually is coming to these events, I would say, for a pause from regular life, for a pause from all of the information. They just want time to like go inwards, reflect, recharge, all of that stuff. So yeah, that is and even that is a thing. And even when you think you've taken enough out, you could probably still take more out and give people more time to do the journaling and the reflection. I know whenever you're facilitating something that I'm involved in, you always have to be like, oh, I know Nicole could journal forever, but we do have to move on. But you do give a lot of time for journaling. I would always prefer more, but that's not possible in every situation.
Yeah, everybody has different preferences for integration time. Like, I actually integrate things pretty quickly, but it's such a beautiful practice for me to slow down even further. and to take things away. And we actually host this certification process to teach people how to do all of this. And we have just restructured the entire program. Somebody asked me this summer, if you were to charge double and make this, a very expensive program, so at the time it was about 5K. They're like, if this was a 10K program, what would you add to give enough value? And I had this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, I would take almost everything away. Because I know people, myself included, who are paying high ticket do not want more. They want the most potent thing. So we actually then, I'm not charging double. I'm actually charging less for this program because I took away all of the bells and whistles. I put in only the most potent things now to help people become transformational facilitators and coaches and get started. And then I'm having different levels where I can add more information to them later because I realized that I was fire hosing my students in this. So this isn't just for transformational workshops and events. This is also if you're a coach, if you're facilitating classes, if you're doing anything with people, less is freaking more. Your powers and your potency, right? And that's so exciting to me because I know it's going to be so, so powerful. And we're going to talk more about that at Rise and Shine if you want more information. But let's also talk about how, for number three, like you as a facilitator also cannot be overloaded. If you are too busy, then you are not going to be able to facilitate well. And I have done this a few times where I have put too much on me and not gotten enough support. And then it's hard to hold the energy. And we'll talk more about energy in number four. But like literally, you're too busy. There's too much going on. There's just so much happening that like you can't respond to everything. So I think we need to get more support if it's a big or long event. And that can look like having an assistant. I love co-facilitating with lots of my friends or inviting somebody that you know, like, and trust to the event for free so they can do some of the pieces for you. And it's like an exchange thing. And Nicole and I and our friend Nina, we've done that for each other lots of times where you gift a ticket to somebody so they can be the point person for the door, perhaps, or for doing, little things that would take you out of your flow as a facilitator. What do you think about getting more support like that and being less busy? Because I know you've too in the past.
Yeah, like even just at an event where it's just a simple like workshop or like simple dance or ceremony or something like that, that's only a few hours. It is so, so powerful to have that extra little bit of support. You just mentioned our friend Nina and I helped her with a bunch of her cacao ceremonies in the past year. And just doing little things like being able to go adjust the lighting for her. And just because we've worked together too, I know like what her preferences are. So I can just anticipate what she may need help with, adjusting temperature in the room, or just those little things that don't seem like it's very much and you probably could handle it on your own. But why not just get help and not have to do that and stay fully like present in that role of facilitator and not have to worry so much about all of those little things, which are also important to the success of the event. And on a bigger example, thinking back to the Radiant Soul retreat that we did in 2015, which now feels like ages and ages and ages ago because it was. I had this vision to hold a retreat before I did any of this in my life. I knew that I didn't have the skills to facilitate this retreat, and I wanted it to be a weekend long retreat and had some skills to facilitate, but not to facilitate the whole time. So I called on all my friends to come in and facilitate their magic, and it was a really beautiful weekend. But by the time we got to Sunday, when I was leading my chakra hoop dance workshop, I was really exhausted. I remember like almost having a little like mini breakdown, and actually Nina happened to be around me at that time. And uh, this is also a time when I didn't know how to ask for, I mean, I clearly asked for support in some ways, but I didn't fully know how to open to receive support at that time. And I was having a little breakdown getting set up because I was like, I'm so tired and hungry and thirsty, and my throat was hurting, I think. And I was just like, wah, to Nina. And she's like, would you like me to go get you some tea? I'm like, yes, that would be lovely. Thank you so much. And it like didn't occur to me that I could have asked her for help. So having that little bit of support was super powerful and just did give me that little bit of extra boost of energy to get through my workshop, which did turn out to be very good. But I feel like it could have been even better if I was more fully resourced because, yeah, that was my first time leading retreat. There was like about 40 women there. We had 5 or 6 facilitators. I don't quite recall now. And while I had done a lot of event planning in my corporate job before, I'd never done something like that and held space over a weekend for that many women in that. So it was all a new experience. And it's wild to think that I took that on, but I heard that voice in my head one day when I woke up. It's on Malon weekend of the year before. And the voice said to me, Nicole, you have to plan a retreat. And I was like, what? But it sounded very serious and important. So I listened. And here I am now, all these years later.
And she asked me to co-facilitate with her, or co-host, and hold the energy. And I'm so glad because we were already friends, but it really catalyzed us into a deeper working relationship. And then we were like, do you want to do more of that? And we had no idea we would wind up in this position where, Nicole and I co-create so much. She is my inspiration coordinator inside the Luminous Evolution brand, head coach inside the Transformational Journey Academy, which was formerly Creation Coach. We just have so much that we have done together and get to do with the world. And honestly, I couldn't do what I do alone. She couldn't have done that retreat alone. And too many of us are playing this game of saying, I can do it all. And sure, you can, but should you? Do you have to? Is this some kind of hyper independent trauma response that you might have? I talked about retreats healing that for me and transformational experiences and events and the sisterhood wound and just receiving support. And it doesn't mean that you have to have a co-host. You can still be the head and the organizer, but just allow people to support you. People are usually happy to do it, and giving a free ticket away just to get some support is like a magical thing that you can do. You could team up with somebody who also does events and do it for each other. There are so many ways that you can do this so that you can feel like you are supported. And that helps you with your energy. So, just to piggyback on what this fourth one was about needing to make sure that you're not too busy, is number 4. Sorry, that was the third one. Number 4 is focusing on your energy first. A mistake is not doing that. If you don't make sure that you are stable and like have enough capacity to hold the event you're going to do, you are going to have a breakdown at your retreat, like Nicole did. And it's not that there's anything wrong with that, but ideally, if you're in flow, you would want to feel completely supported and capable of holding it without it being such a freaking roller coaster. So what we have learned is that your personal practice and you being supported and you having clear enough energetic field and physical field and all of that matters so much. If you are not in a stable position, if you cannot hold energy for yourself, how are you going to hold the energy of your entire event and the participants? I'm sure you've probably been in experiences where it felt like the facilitator was not feeling really good about themselves, like they were not in it, that they were maybe tired, they were overwhelmed, they were discombobulated, they were triggered. It's not the masterful vibe that you want to cultivate so that people have the most amazing transformational journey. So creating the stability for you first is, I think, essential and a responsibility that we have. So that means like creating enough space and time for yourself before the event, during the event, etc., for you to have the sleep that you need, the nutrition that you need, the energy that you need to have. You need to make sure you are, doing your energetic hygiene practices. If you don't have any, like, let me know. I can hook you up with those because you want to be able to be a channel for spirit to flow through you, to be able to hold that space instead of being like a murky swamp who is like spinning in whatever issues that are happening in your life at the time. It is possible to have a chaos family thing happening or something with a friend, some drama, and still show up clean and clear in your energetic capacity to hold space, if you know how to do that, which is another reason I think your beingness and your business are so intertwined. And I teach a lot of personal and spiritual development, energetic hygiene, and all of that kind of practice so that people can show up in their most radiant light as the facilitator that's going to rock people's world instead of making them go, I hope she's okay.
Yeah, like I'm just as you're speaking, thinking into this, and like I just have these two examples of times that I was facilitating ecstatic dance this summer. So one was at Vibes Music Festival, and I had gone to bed like early, like music festival early is like midnight the night before. I woke up early and I was feeling so good, and I went through my playlist and really like did all my energetic practices. I walked through the forest and then was able to facilitate, I think, one of the best ecstatic dance workshops that I've ever done at Vibes. And I honestly feel like it changed for me, and other people told me this too, that it like changed the whole vibe of the festival. Like it really got everybody into their hearts, and it was so beautiful. That's such a favorite memory to think of. And then at my music festival, Base Camp, which is a family friendly electronic music festival, I also facilitated ecstatic dance there. And right before my workshop was about to start, there was like this whole big background behind the scenes issue. And we were kind of worried that the festival might get shut down, but then it didn't. And then we had to push my workshop back. And then there was a lot of drama and stuff happening. And so that's what we're talking about. Like, I still did pretty good facilitating at base camp. Actually, I've heard lots of people say I did really good, but the difference was I didn't feel as regulated. I did pretty good at holding that regulated space and like not letting everything knock me over. I came into my power and was still able to facilitate. My daughter ran in at one point and was like actively trying to attack me. She was climbing up and she was trying to punch my microphone. I was holding her and still giving cues. I was like, well, that's a level up in my facilitation that I can like not totally lose my shit.
It was really
Um,
fun.
and luckily I had some friends that were trying to get her to like, like come over here with me and stuff. Eventually she got bored and ran away and went off and was a festival kid again. um, so how I perceived it was I could have done better, and it didn't totally knock me out of everything because I was able to hold that energetic space and disconnect from the outside influences and drop into that role as facilitator. Like if I hadn't have done all the work and didn't have all the practice that I have had, I probably wouldn't have been able to show up the same way that I in that.
Mhm. This is the thing. You probably have a higher level of perfection standard that you're holding yourself to, but from the outside perspective, like I wouldn't have known, and I didn't know until afterwards that there was drama. I didn't sense there was something off, and that's what you can do when you hold this clear energetic space, which takes practice. It takes knowing how to do that. It takes like creating that stability for you, and you did a masterful job. You didn't start with facilitating 40-person weekend retreats. You didn't start by hosting music festivals, right? And neither did I. We have this code for you for number 5. And it's like, even if this dream is on your vision board, to host big events, you don't actually have to start there. Practice with a smaller event. Give yourself permission to practice before you thrust yourself into giant space so you can work the kinks out and see what's going to happen and how you can handle it, because things are going to go wrong when you're facilitating live with a smaller group, a smaller event, a shorter period of time before you go to the week-long retreat at the, event lands on like a sacred vortex or something like that, where there's a lot of pressure. Because if you haven't practiced holding yourself through the smaller events, you don't know how to like expand that capacity into something bigger. Like, be kind to yourself. You're going to have so much more success if you try something on. Start with an hour, or like facilitating some friends through a group. It doesn't have to be like the end vision goal right away. And I think that that is something that is lost on people these days for some reason. We forget that you need to study and you need to practice.
Mhm. Absolutely. Like, I know that I've been guilty of this before. I've seen other people recently in my life be not be guilty of this, but like, experience this as well. Of so I looked at Casey and was like, why can't I do all the things that you do? And this was more in terms of coaching, but that's still facilitating transformational experiences. Uh, and she's like, well, I've taken all of these different things. I've worked in the suicide prevention center, and like, you just have so much experience that you just don't talk about on a day-to-day basis that I wasn't aware of. And so I looked at you and I was like, well, I have the same skills and experience as you. For some reason, my brain filled that in. And you're like, well, actually, you don't. And more practice is okay. And it's okay for us to be where we're at and start where we're at. We don't have to judge ourselves for not being more skilled at something that we don't have practice in. Like, it does take time, it does take practice. It takes a lot of learning as you go and adjusting things. And you can look after you facilitate anything and be like, oh, what can I do to improve next time, or what can I try differently? It doesn't even need to be an improvement, but maybe just like, what can I try differently? Maybe it'll land different with a different group in a different way or something like that. Yeah, it's so important to start small and not put all that pressure on yourself to go big, because that just creates anxiety and makes it way more difficult than it needs to be. And you're probably going to not be awesome at first, and that's okay.
Yeah, exactly. People stop themselves from ever taking action towards their big dream because they forget about all the little steps in between. Because those are the ones that you don't necessarily see. The people hosting a circle in their house, the people who are doing small, intimate workshops. By the way, I have had some of the biggest breakthroughs and the best experiences of my life in intimate experiences. So don't think that bigger is always better. Okay. This is really key. Bigger is not always better. Intimacy is super sexy.
Each little thing compounds on top of each other and it grows, and there's this upward spiral where the more you practice, the better you get. And then it just becomes so much easier. So practice, practice, practice.
Right? Amazing. And I love this. Dewey is saying, I'm going to ask for more help. Yes, I love that. And good luck with your online multi-day event. So amazing. I love how many people are showing up and shining their light and sharing it with the world. And I'm really excited to support more people in actually taking all of the dreams and the visions and the goals and actually become masterful at facilitating events through practice, through study, and through getting wisdom from people who've been there. Like Nicole and I together, we've probably got something like 40 years of leadership and event planning and transformational facilitation between the two of us. Like, I have done this full time for like 7 to 10 years. I don't even know anymore. And part time before then. Like, we have a lot of experience. We've made a lot of mistakes. And we're going to share more about what not to do and what to do to make it easy and blended with soul and strategy inside the Rise and Shine Masterclass, which is all about the mastery of it. So, whether you're an abject beginner or this is something that you have been doing for a while, there's going to be keys and codes for you to pick up, including really being able to connect energetically. I'm going to take you on an adventure with your soul to bring through your unique template, your next right steps in something that your soul can speak with you. And then we're going to help you with the how, right? The magic and then also the earthly 3D step-by-step linear process. They have to be bridged together. I want to give you a final step as well, or mistake rather, that people are making. And we've made this one in the past too. Don't just assume that if you build it, people will come. This is not Field of Dreams. We have a relatively saturated market. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing this. If Spirit has placed it on your heart, then you are here to do this to change people's lives. But when you are marketing your events, especially the bigger they get, you're going to need to actually spend more time than you think you will telling people about it, growing your visibility, growing that circle of people who know, like, and trust you so that when you host the retreat, they're like, yes, I want to be there. So typically, you need to build your visibility and marketing and messaging like as you grow. And that's easier to do if you start with small events and you can get testimonials and social proof and things to talk about from them, because it's much easier to fill a 4 or 8 person workshop than a 40-person workshop, right? So start with that small one, gather the information that's going to give people the social proof that they need and the photos to prove that you're awesome at this and the practice that you need to be confident in being able to market it and share it with the world.
Yeah. Um, what you spoke about saturation is really so important. And I'm thinking about like it was actually relatively easy to sell out the Radiant Soul Retreat in 2015 because I feel like there was a lot less stuff like that going on than compared to now. And it really is so important. People's attention spans are so limited. Our attention spans have decreased probably so much since then, unfortunately. We have to like have that consistency and bringing home those messages more often so people are able to see over and over and over again before their brain even registers that you're actually doing something. Yeah, there's just, it's so important to bring in that not forgetting to market yourself. And
Yeah. And I want to say that when we go back through these steps, all of these steps will help you really be able to stand out in a marketplace, right? It's not too crowded. When you become this clear, energetic channel for what you are here to bring through, and you are able to speak into it confidently because you've practiced with smaller groups, more intimate groups, then when it comes time to share with larger groups of people, then you're going to know how to do that because you're like, going to feel so confident saying, like, listen, I know what it takes to hold this transformational space, and I want to share that with you. And so, again, if you're like, I have this dream and I don't feel like I am masterful at it yet, where I can show up and like share really confidently, come to Rise and Shine. We are going to talk about all the steps along the journey to mastering the art of hosting transformational experiences. It's going to be retreats, events, workshops. It's applicable to those group scenarios, both in person and online, but we're also going to bring in for you how you can bring that into your one-on-one work as well. So if you are not yet facilitating groups, there's still going to be important codes for you because it's about the transformational journey that you take somebody on, a metamorphosis where they turn from one thing to the other. And I'm just so excited to be sharing this because the world needs this stuff right now. The world needs your voice as a coach, as a facilitator, as a healer, as a practitioner, no matter what titles you put. You're someone who is here to help. We need you now. So if you have been placing this off in the far distant future as something you're going to do someday, I want you to come to Rise and Shine because it's going to help you break things down into the bite-sized pieces that you need to be able to do to get to that vision board big retreat on the beach or in, the red rocks of Sedona or whatever it is. There are so many freaking steps in between there, and I want to tell you about them so you can go, oh, this is much easier than I thought. So you can get out of the overwhelm and get back into that soul aligned flow of sharing what you're here to share with the world.
yeah, it's like literally about just taking all the steps that are directly in front of you. And like if I hadn't have done that one retreat in 2015, then who knows where I would have ended up. But I learned so much from that, and I continued to take little steps. And like just even before that, had already done things. Like every little thing along the way that you do will compound and help over time. And you don't know exactly where you're going to go or end up. But if you keep taking those steps along the way, eventually you'll end up where I just turned 40 and it's like, wow, I've done a lot of stuff. All of these little things along the way have helped me. And I just happen to know a whole bunch of stuff and have all these transferable skills now. It's pretty cool to realize that all the little things that were calling on my soul from in my 20s and 30s have actually helped me become quite masterful at facilitating and event hosting and all of these different skills that I have. It's so freaking cool. And if my logical brain was like, well, I have to take the certification and do things like in these like really regimented ways, and I have to end up at this spot by this time, like it would have, I might have not done it because I'm like, well, I still have my full-time job and like what am I even going to do with that? But I just kept following the things that were pulling my heart and it led me here. With a lot of freaking work along the way.
Study and practice, learning from people who are already doing what you want to do as well, and receiving the codes from them will speed up the process too. It's the final thought that I want to have before we wrap things up is something that we were talking about before we came on live, which is that a lot of people can think like, oh, I've been to a retreat. I know how to facilitate. I could totally do that. And that thought that I could totally do that, it's valid. You can, you absolutely can. But can you do it masterfully without learning the behind the scenes and some of the how and the energetics and the strategy and the soul? You could by trial and error, but you're not going to be awesome at it right away. So when you devote yourself to doing some study and practice from people who have already practiced and made the mistakes and learned from them and created strategies and structures and systems and templates that they can share with you, you will cut the time down between that big dream and what you can do right now, and you will grow into it. So this is the thing. Facilitation, yes, it comes naturally to you, but you're going to need to put in some work to do it masterfully, which is what I know you want to do.
Yes. It was just making me think of, I want to learn how to actually DJ. So I facilitate ecstatic dance and I make epic playlists, but I want to have the actual skills to be a real DJ. So I started watching TikToks about it. And I was watching these DJs do all these crazy epic transitions. And I noticed myself getting overwhelmed because I'm like, how am I going to do that? And I'm like, oh, wait, I'm jumping ahead. I'm doing the exact thing that we're talking about. I don't need to like stress myself out by thinking about how am I going to do all this crazy advanced stuff. I can start at the beginning and learn how to beat match and cue. And like, I have to remember to learn the basics and be okay with that and hold the space to grow into all of the more advanced stuff, which is also like when I was started hoop dancing too. I was like, I want to do it all. And I just kept practicing. And now I've been doing it for 15 years and I can just pick up a hoop and do all these wild, crazy hoop tricks. And it is effortless now, but it took a lot of practice to get there.
Yes, we can't be afraid of starting at the beginning and then practicing to create and cultivate that mastery. So if you haven't registered already, do that now. Rise and Shine begins on November 20th, and we're going to be sharing so much more on, again, the structures and the soul, the strategy and the magic. We're going to bring it all together for you, and you will get the next right steps for your big dream from your soul. So, Nicole, thank you so much for sharing this time with me with the 6 mistakes to avoid and what to do instead when you're hosting facilitation, hosting transformational events that you're facilitating. So let us know if you have any other questions in the comments, and we will make sure that we answer them in a follow-up video. Sending you guys all so much love. We'll see you soon.